Lethal Justice by Justin Malbrough, Nina Yates, and Faith Burkett. Recently, there has been a lot of controversy over what should happen to those people convicted of committing the worst crimes in our society. For example, some people believe that serial killers and serial rapists should just rot in prison for the rest of their lives, while others believe that if these people are capable of committing crimes this bad, then they have no right to live themselves and should be executed. Letting these people rot in prisons for the rest of their lives might be more of a torture than just killing them and letting them get the easy way out. But the death penalty really is the right way to go when it comes to controlling the worst of the worst in our society. So, here are 3 reasons why it makes much more sense just to keep the death penalty in place everywhere. 1, because it's morally the right thing to do. 2, because it provides closure for victims. And 3, because it's something that criminals actually fear. Starting with the first reason, it's morally the right thing to do. Lubbock County Criminal District Attorney Matt Powell said, "I don't dispute that it's more expensive, but said he never takes cost into account when deciding whether to seek the death penalty. It simply makes no sense to let these horrible criminals sit in prison and live off of taxpayers' money. Why should innocent taxpayers be burdened with supplying every need of every horrendous criminal? I mean, I don't think anybody would let a murderer or rapist into their homes and simply take care of them. It's like making people take care of people like Ted Bundy or Jack the Ripper. It would be much more just and sound just to execute these people who have no problem taking other people's lives." Second, it provides closure for victims. On June 7, 1998, white supremacists chained James Byrd Jr. by his ankles to the bumper of a pickup truck and dragged him 3 miles down a rough asphalt road in Jasper, Texas. Lawrence Russell Brewer and John William King dumped what was left of Byrd's mangled body outside a black church and cemetery. Brewer and King were convicted of capital murder. A third man received a life sentence. Before she died in 2010, Taylor's mother made a promise to see Byrd's killers punished. So when an unrepentant Brewer was executed in September 2011, Taylor stood witness. "It didn't bring me any sense of peace or relief," she said. "It's just a matter of saying that this one chapter in the book was now closed and we can move on to the next part of it." When someone is murdered, it affects an entire family. The murderer has deprived family and friends of a loved one. The criminal usually gets caught, tried, and sentenced. When a criminal is sentenced to a life in prison, it gives the family a sense of justice that has been served for their loved one. But the family still has to live their daily lives knowing that their loved one is gone and the murderer of their loved one is still living his life well-fed, sheltered, and clean. True justice and true moving on with their lives can only come through the death penalty. Once these families and friends know that the murderer of their loved one is no longer enjoying life, they can move on with life and experience a true sense of justice. Of course, the murderer being executed will not bring the family's loved one back, but it will keep them from worrying about what the criminal is doing in life. Lastly, the death penalty is something that criminals actually fear. A recent study by Kenneth Land of Duke University and others concluded that from 1994 through 2005, each execution in Texas was associated with modern short-term reductions in homicides, a decrease of up to 2.5 murders. In 2009, researchers found that adopting state laws allowing defendants in child murder cases to be eligible for the death penalty was associated with an almost 20% increase or reduction in these crimes. Today, the death penalty should be kept in place because it's something criminals will actually try to avoid. When someone is put on death row, they will usually try at all costs to get off, whether it's putting in countless appeals to the judge or simply begging the judge to reduce their sentence to life in prison. The reason most people on death row do this is because, just like any other human being, no matter what they have done or how tough they may seem, they are scared of the unknown, which is death. Putting someone on death row actually makes them think a lot more about the crimes they have committed, because then they actually have a date and a time which they will no longer be on this earth. When a criminal is on death row, they finally come to regret what they have done, because now their life is about to be taken. They realize how their victims or victim may have felt when they were scared and their life was about to be taken. When criminals behave this way, it sends a message to other criminals who may say they don't care about getting the death penalty, or they are not scared of death. It makes those criminals rethink their lives and what they are doing with them. It's easy to say you're not scared of death when you're not facing it, but when you have a scheduled date of death, it really becomes reality. In conclusion, death penalty should be kept and put into place because of moral reasons. It brings a sense of justice to victims, and because it's something that criminals actually fear and want to avoid. The death penalty is also the most logical way to deal with the worst of the worst in our society. Lethal justice really goes all the way back to the Code of Hammurabi. And one of the main codes was simply put, an eye for an eye. This was used back when it was really effective in keeping people from committing crimes, because people knew whatever they took or did would get taken away from them or done to them. These are some of the same reasons why the death penalty is effective where it is in place, and will be effective in places where it is not yet in place. Now, of course, I'm not arguing that we should go back to medieval law where you could be put to death for any little thing such as stealing, but what I'm arguing is that some people are just not to live with others, and some people, after And some people, after the things they have done, just have no right to live anymore. Sometimes legal justice have to be the answer. It may not be the nicest or easiest decision to make, but we can't always make decisions based on our emotions. Sometimes we just have to do what makes the most sense and what will make our lives and our society better overall.